the gate that stood where the horizon ended. It is said that in forgotten corners of the earth, some structures do not mark distance. They mark longing. Some walls do not open into new lands. They open into questions. And so tonight, beneath a sky washed in silver dusk, our journey begins with a whisper rising softly through shifting dune. What lies beyond a gate, carved to face only the setting sun? The question drifts as gently as desert wind, floating across a vast expanse of a pale sand that glows softly beneath the moon's rising breath. You walk toward the faint shape ahead, a silhouette against the fading horizon, a lone stone archway standing where the world seems to fall away. Its presence feels ancient, older than the dunes it rests upon, older than the winds that have shaped them, older, perhaps, than memory itself. The arch is carved from weathered stone, sandstone yellow, softened into sand beige from centuries of desert breath. Its edges are chipped, its top bowed under invisible weight, and yet it stands with quiet grace. Moonlight rests upon it like a blessing, or a warning. The inner walls of the arch are etched with spirals, delicate, drifting designs that seem to shimmer as grains of sand curl against them. When the breeze sighs, the spirals appear to move, as though breathing, as though listening, as though recalling something long buried beneath silence and starlight. You approach the gate slowly, your footsteps leaving soft impressions that the wind immediately tries to erase. Around the arch's base lie offerings half buried in sand. Fragments of pottery etched with fading symbols, petals dried into curled shadows, stones arranged in small crescents. Each piece placed with intention by hands that have long since vanished. You kneel beside one of the offerings, a clay shard. Its pattern, simple lines weaving into a spiral, matches those found on the arch. You brush sand from its surface. The clay hums faintly with warmth, as though touched recently, even though centuries have passed. Some say the travelers who placed these offerings did so out of reverence. Others say the offerings were a plea, a final whisper to the desert, a request for safe passage. All agree on one thing. Those who passed through the gate never returned. Their names were whispered in villages now swallowed by dunes. Their stories told around fires that burned under starlit canopies. And then, with time, even the stories dissolved. But the gate remained, watching, waiting, breathing softly under the moon's eternal gaze. You stand and move closer. Your fingertips graze the stone. It is cool, but only at first. Slowly, it warms beneath your touch as though responding, as though remembering. The spirals carved into the stone feel deeper than they appear, like echoes etched by hands that understood something the rest of the world forgot. You step beneath the arch. The air here feels different, still, dense, as though the world is holding its breath. Beneath the silence, you sense a question stirring, a question not spoken, but felt. Far across the dunes, the last traces of sunset glow like embers smoldering in the horizon's cradle. The arch faces that glow directly. It refuses to look anywhere else. Some believe this was deliberate, that the gate was carved to face the dying light, because the people who built it believed the world's hidden truths lived not at sunrise, but at sunset. In that soft moment, when light fades into something deeper, the dunes around you shift, Not loudly, not dramatically, just a soft movement, like a veil being lifted by ancient breath. The sand stirs in spirals, mirroring the carvings on the arch. And then you see them. Footprints. Faint, fragile, dancing across the surface of the sand like delicate memories. You follow them with your eyes. They approach the gate, grow stronger, more defined. And then they end, abruptly, right at the threshold. You kneel again, your hand hovering over the last footprint. Its outline is soft, but unmistakable. Someone stood here. Someone paused. Someone hesitated for a single breath, and then stepped forward into a silence that left no trace. Not a second footprint. Not a drag of sand. Nothing. As though the world shifted beneath them and gently erased their presence. You inhale slowly. A soft ache gathers beneath your ribs. Whispers tell us that the gate does not lead to another land. At least, not one we can map. Not one we can name. Some say it opens to a chamber of time. A place outside the lineage of days, where past and future blend like dust in moonlight. Others believe it leads to a realm of silence. A space where sound is swallowed and thought becomes weightless. Still others claim the gate is not a passage at all, but a promise. A promise to those who seek something beyond the edges of the known world. A promise that the world still holds spaces untouched by certainty. Spaces where those who seek may find not answers, but rest. You step fully beneath the arch. The air grows heavy. The moon dims, as though a thin veil passes over it. You close your eyes, and for a moment, just a moment, you feel something. A pull, soft as a sigh, subtle as drifting sand. Warm as a forgotten hand touching your shoulder. You open your eyes, nothing has changed, and yet everything feels different. The spirals carved into the stone glow faintly, lit not by moonlight, but by something internal, something ancient, something alive. You step backward out of the arch and the glowing fades. The carvings fall silent once more. You turn toward the dunes. The wind picks up again, gently, like a slow caress. The footprints are already beginning to blur, their outlines softening beneath shifting grains. The offerings tremble. Sand drifts over them, curling like dust settling over memory. The gate stands still, its silhouette framed by moonlight. Lonely, patient, eternal. You sit on the cool sand, the air brushing softly against your skin. The night is quiet, unbroken, yet the space around the gate hums with a tenderness that feels almost like longing. Whispers tell us that the gate remembers every traveler who ever stepped through, that their warmth remains in the stone, their breath caught in the spirals, their stories lingering in the quiet between sand and sky. Perhaps the gate did not consume them. Perhaps it carried them somewhere gentle, somewhere quiet, somewhere the world could not follow. As you gaze at the arch, its shape glowing softly in the night, a realization settles into your thoughts, like dust settling onto ancient stone. Perhaps the gate was never meant to be understood. Perhaps it was carved not to reveal what lies beyond, but to remind us that there are places in this world where uncertainty is sacred, where silence is not emptiness but presence, where questions are allowed to remain unanswered. You rise slowly. The wind sighs against your back. The spirals on the arch glint one final time before dimming into the color of sleep. You turn toward the open desert, your footsteps soft, your breath steady, and as you leave the gate behind, a gentle thought drifts through your mind, like a final whisper carried on the wind. Perhaps the gate is not a passage, but a promise, one that only sand and silence still understand. And with that soft, lingering certainty, you walk into the night, the quiet folding around you like a familiar dream. The caravan that followed a star into darkness, it is said that in forgotten portions of the night sky, there are stars that do not shine in the way others do. They do not burn high above us, steadfast and distant, but drift low, lower than they should, as though trying to touch the world. One such star, a pale, wandering ember, once swept across the desert horizon, glowing with a gentle pulse that stirred the hearts of those who wandered beneath it. And one night, beneath that strange celestial breath, a caravan gathered, not by command, not by any written sign, but by instinct, a pull they could not name. They looked up. They saw the wandering star, lower than the others, closer, almost listening. And so they followed. This is where our journey begins. The desert night stretches around you, a vast ocean of shifting silver dunes that glow softly beneath the moon's patient gaze. The wind moves with a whisper, pushing small spirals of sand that climb and fall like breath drawn by a sleeping giant. You walk slowly, your steps sinking gently into the soft dunes, tracing a path once known to the caravan that followed the star. The air carries faint echoes, soft impressions of movement, fabric brushing skin, metal jangling softly, lanterns swaying in rhythmic arcs. And then, scattered across the sand, you begin to see them. Relics, the remnants of their passing. A torn banner caught on the thorn of a desert shrub, its faded symbol dancing weakly in the breeze. Clay flutes cracked by heat, their hollow bodies filled with drifting grains. A sandal strap half buried near the crest of a dune. An urn whose painted surface has been nearly erased by time. And then, half covered in sand, its edges curled from age, a map. You kneel to retrieve it. It is fragile. Dust crumbles from its surface. The ink has faded into faint, ghost-like lines, barely visible, like veins beneath translucent skin. But under moonlight, you see it. A single stroke of ink, impossibly delicate, leading from the caravan's homeland toward the far edge of the known desert, toward the gate no traveler returned through. You lift the map gently. The paper breathes, fluttering softly in the night breeze, as though remembering the hands that once held it. Hands that trusted its guidance. Hands that believed in the star. You rise. The wind hums, and the dunes whisper beneath your footsteps. We walk deeper into the abandoned trail. It drifts in and out of view, lost beneath shifting sands, then revealed again in soft moonlit arcs. Each footprint, or what remains of one, is held in the desert's memory like a quiet echo, a dip in the dune's curve, a slight hollow in the sand. It is said that the desert remembers those who do not return. Not in words, not in images, but in shapes. Soft shapes, fleeting shapes. The gentle hollows their feet once formed. You lean down and touch one. It is shallow now, barely the air. But the sand remembers. You close your eyes, and the world grows very still. For a moment, you can almost feel the warmth of bodies once passing through this place. Their breath rising in clouds, their lanterns whispering soft circles of light on the ground. Perhaps they sang. Perhaps they walked in silence, following the lone star, trusting it would lead them somewhere beyond burden and into the soft cradle of peace. Some believe the star was a celestial messenger, a guide carrying them toward a realm where time pooled, like water in a quiet oasis, where the weight of memory softened like dust under rain. Others whisper that the star was a test meant to lure those who listened too closely to the yearning within. But the desert knows the truth and holds it tightly beneath its drifting skin. You climb a dune, the sand slipping gently beneath your feet. From the crest, the desert unfolds before you. An endless sea of silver waves, each dune shimmering like starlight reflected in water. You imagine the caravan here, lanterns swaying in slow rhythmic steps, camels kneeling to watch the star, children asleep against bundles of woven cloth, hands clasping together in quiet reassurance. And above them, the wandering star, pale and low, as though guiding them from breath to breath. The star's glow did not waver. It beckoned, always toward the west, always toward the place where the horizon dimmed into something deeper, into shadow, into dream, into silence. And always they followed. Whispers tell us that as the caravan approached the stone gate, the star descended lower and lower until it hovered just above the arch's crest. The gate, a stark silhouette against the dying light, seemed to awaken under its glow. Some say the stone warmed. Some say the spirals carved within it began to rotate softly, like breath drawn into the earth. Some say the air thickened, heavy with the weight of the unknown. But no one really knows, for no traveler returned to tell the tale. What we do know is what the desert remembers. And so you walk, down the dune, across a hollow, toward a place where the land trembles with memory. The wind shifts. Drifting sand spirals upward, like breath rising from the sleeping earth. It is as though the desert itself has been waiting for someone to walk this path again. As night deepens, the dunes darken into soft, rolling shadows. Starlight glimmers overhead with a clarity so gentle you feel as if you are wading through it. And then, on the far horizon, you see it, a faint glow, not the glow of the moon, nor of fire, nor of cities forgotten. A glow low upon the horizon, soft, wandering, fluttering gently like a candle in distant dark. A star, not high in the sky, but drifting just above the dunes, as though unsure whether it belongs to the heavens or the earth. The air grows cooler. The sand hushes beneath your feet, and for a heartbeat, the desert feels alive. The star brightens, a faint pulse, a delicate throb of light, as though greeting you, or remembering. You stand still, and the star dims. The light withdraws as gently as it emerged, melting back into the horizon like a whisper returning to its chamber of silence. It leaves behind a hollow quiet, not empty, but full of unasked questions. Perhaps the caravan followed it here. Perhaps it led them to the threshold of the stone gate and showed them something the world no longer recalls. Something soft. Something sacred. Something the desert alone holds in its memory. You step forward. The sand glows faintly under the lingering touch of the star. The hollows deepen. The air thickens. You are close. A few steps further, and the wind stills completely. The world hushes. So deeply that your own breath feels like an intrusion. And in that stillness, you feel the caravan's final footsteps. Not through sound, not through sight, through presence. Through absence, through the shape the air makes when something once moved and then stopped moving altogether. The dunes seem to exhale. A small swirl of dust rises, circling your feet like a curious spirit, then settling, as though marking the place where the caravan vanished into a realm the waking world cannot hold. You sit on the sand, letting the desert cradle you in its endless quiet. Above, the night sky flows gently, a river of constellations drifting in slow procession. You feel the soft ache of their story lingering around you. A longing, a question, an echo. Did they vanish into danger? Or into a dream? Did the star mislead them? Or carry them somewhere where silence softens all burdens? The desert does not answer. It holds the secret tenderly, wrapped in spirals of sand and threads of moonlight. You rise, your breath soft and steady. The path behind you is already fading, erased by shifting grains. The relics, the hollows, the traces, all slowly dissolving into the vast memory of the desert. And you understand something subtle, something gentle. Some journeys are not meant to be found. Some stories remain half told because the rest of the tale belongs to realms we are not meant to travel awake. As you walk back across the dunes, the star does not reappear, but its echo remains. A faint, lingering shimmer on the edge of the horizon. A whisper that feels like a promise, soft as dust, fragile as breath. Perhaps they did not vanish into danger. Perhaps they vanished into a dream. One the world can only glimpse when the night grows quiet enough to listen. The keeper of the unfinished records. It is said that beneath the silence of deserts, beneath the dunes that shift like soft, ancient breath, beneath the stones warmed by thousands of forgotten suns, there lie chambers that remember what people have forgotten. Chambers carved not for the world of the living, but for memory itself. And tonight, your steps carry you toward one such place. A stone refuge hidden near the gate where so many travelers vanished under the pale glow of wandering stars. The sand parts beneath your feet as the moon rises into its quiet throne, silver and solemn, as though watching over secrets that tremble at the edge of revelation. Ahead, half buried in the dune's curved embrace, a narrow passage descends. Its entrance is nothing more than a shadowed slit between slabs of sandstone. Yet it pulls at your attention the way a whisper pulls at a weary mind. Subtle, insistent, familiar. You slip inside. The desert wind hushes behind you. Silence folds itself gently over your shoulders, like a thin, moonlit veil. The air is cool, damp, carrying the smell of old stone and the faintest trace of dust that has not been disturbed in countless years. A single thought glows quietly within you. This is where the keeper wrote. You follow the corridor, your fingers trailing along walls carved with spirals. The same spirals that crown the great stone gate above, marking the final threshold of all who pass through. The spirals guide you inward until the tunnel opens into a chamber carved by patient, deliberate hands. A scribe's final refuge, a sanctuary of unfinished stories. Moonlight spills through a narrow crack in the ceiling overhead. A soft, trembling beam that falls upon tablets arranged in gentle rows against the chamber's stone walls. Each tablet is carved with lines that shimmer faintly where the moonlight touches them. Lines that do not complete themselves. Sentences broken mid-thought. Maps that reach the edge of the stone and stop abruptly, as though the hand that shaped them hesitated and chose silence over certainty. Dust drapes the chamber like a sacred veil. When you step forward, it rises in slow spirals, glittering like pale starlight caught in the still air. At the center of the room sits a low stone shelf covered with fragments. Chips of discarded tablets, broken styluses, small bottles of dried pigment. A life lived quietly, diligently, in service of a truth that never revealed itself fully. You kneel beside one of the tablets. Its surface is cool beneath your fingertips. Yet beneath that coolness, there is a softness. The softness of a story that warmed the hands that carved it. You trace the lines. A journey begins. The first marks show a group. Figures etched simply, their features vague, their steps deliberate. Then the line shifts into curves representing dunes, footsteps crossing sand, spirals marking the passing of days. The figures move closer to a drawn arch. The same arch you saw above the chamber, the one carved in stone facing the dying sun. And then, the carving stops. The stone is blank where the next line should be. The story ends at the gate. You lift your fingers. The blankness feels heavier than the carved lines, heavier than silence, heavier than any answer that could have been written there. It is the weight of an unfinished truth. You rise and step slowly along the wall, examining each tablet in turn. Every journey recorded within this chamber ends the same way. At the threshold of the gate, every map carved here traces a path toward the arch but never beyond it. The keeper, whoever they were, captured each traveler's final approach with delicate precision. Their hopes, their fears, their whispered farewells, but never their crossing. The crossing was a silence the keeper refused to disturb, or perhaps could not. Some believe the keeper stayed behind because the world needs someone to remember those who vanish, to honor the stories that do not return. Others whispered that the keeper feared that if they crossed, their own story would fade into blankness. A story cannot both record and become. The desert holds many truths. This chamber holds the ones that were left unfinished. You move deeper into the room. The air thickens with quiet emotion. Not sorrow, not longing, but something more subtle. A tenderness for those who left. A devotion to witnessing their final steps. A loneliness woven gently into the dust. On the far wall rests the largest tablet of all. Its surface cracked down the center. Its carvings faint but still visible. You approach it slowly. This one is different. The lines begin not with the journey of a caravan or the steps of a lone pilgrim, but with a hand holding a stylus, a hand carving, a hand you imagine to be the keeper's own. The first lines appear firm, deliberate. Then they soften, curve gently, as though the hand began to tremble. The carvings depict a view of the gate, the stone arch illuminated by a setting sun that glows with carved radiance. Below it, a single line stretches across the stone, as if marking a path. But only a few inches in, the line stops, then restarts, stops again, restarted once more in a new direction, then stops. Like a person approaching the gate again and again, but stepping back before the threshold. A story paused in hesitation. You feel the echo of that hesitation beneath your fingertips. The longing, the fear, the weight of unanswered questions the keeper carried alone. This tablet is the keeper's own story, the only one they allowed themselves to carve, and they could not finish it. You sit before the large tablet, your breath slow and steady. The moonlight shifts overhead, its beams sliding across the room and brushing your shoulder like a gentle reassurance. You glance at the floor and notice something else, a small pile of dust settling more thickly near the wall. You brush the sand aside, and your fingers touch stone. Another tablet, broken, nearly erased. You lift it carefully. The carvings are faint, the lines barely perceptible. But as you angle it toward the moonlight, shapes appear. A face, simple, softly drawn, but unmistakably real. The keeper carved themselves into the tablet. Not fully, not boldly, just a silhouette, a suggestion of presence, like a shadow made of memory beside it, a second silhouette. No features, only a shape. A traveler, one the keeper watched, one they followed in spirit to the edge of the gate, but could not follow bodily. And beneath it all, the fragile beginnings of a story the keeper never finished. You hold the broken piece against your chest. The stone is warm, or perhaps your hands are simply cold. A feeling rises in you, gentle, aching, honest. The keeper lived in solitude, recording, observing, holding the stories others could not bring back. They carved the echoes of hopes and fears they themselves never experienced, but felt intimately through the tremor of every traveler's footsteps. Their life was not one of grand action, but of quiet witnessing. Yet in their silence, their devotion, they created something profound. A sanctuary for unfinished stories, a refuge for unanswered questions, a testament to the mystery that lies beyond the gate. Perhaps they wondered every day whether they should cross, whether they should abandon the recordings and walk through the arch into whatever waited on the other side. But they stayed, not out of fear, but out of purpose. Someone had to remain to remember. Dawn approaches slowly. A soft glow seeps into the chamber, warming the floor, touching the carved lines with gentle gold. You look around one last time. The tablets gleam with the faintest hints of life, their stories glowing softly under morning light, as though breathing. The dust settles again, folding over the carvings like a protective shroud. You return the broken fragment to its resting place and rise. As you step back into the passageway, the chamber whispers behind you, not with sound, but with sensation. A soft ache, a quiet question, a lingering presence that reaches out gently from beyond the threshold of time. Perhaps the keeper never crossed, because something within them recognized a truth we often forget. Some stories are not meant to be finished. Some questions are meant to remain open. Some mysteries ask not to be solved, but to be honored. You emerge from the chamber. The dawn spreads across the desert in hues of pale rose and gold. The stone gate stands in the distance, its spirals glowing softly beneath the waking sky. A breeze sweeps across your face, cool and tender. And as the sun climbs slowly, painting the dunes in soft light, You feel a final realization settle within you. Perhaps the keeper's solitude was not loneliness. Perhaps it was devotion, a life dedicated to preserving what could not be explained, and to listening for the echoes left behind by those who stepped into the unknown. Some voices only echo when the world grows silent enough to hear them. And this morning, in the quiet between shadow and dawn, you have heard one, the echoing footsteps beneath the sand. It is said that in forgotten corners of the world, there are valleys where the earth remembers more than any living tongue can speak. Valleys where silence is not empty, but inhabited. Full of breath, full of memory, full of the soft motions of things long vanished. And tonight, under a sky brushed in pale dusk and deepening starlight, you find yourself standing in one such valley. A place where the land holds echoes beneath its skin. A place where the sand itself seems to listen. The wind is faint now, a low hum drifting across the dunes, rustling through sparse tufts of desert grass that glow faintly in the last traces of daylight. The stone gate, the ancient threshold where so many travelers vanished, rests far behind you, its silhouette dissolving into the horizon like a memory returning to sleep. Here, the land feels different, heavy, as though it carries something just beneath the surface. Something waiting. Something remembering. You take a single step, and the earth moves ever so slightly beneath you. A tremor, soft as a passing sigh, gentle as a heartbeat felt through fabric. You pause. The tremor pauses with you. You take another step again. The earth stirs. A faint pulse, barely more than the sensation of sand shifting. But not random, not wind, not weight. Something rhythmic, something deliberate, something like footsteps. Footsteps walking beneath the sand. A quiet breath escapes your lips. The air feels suddenly cooler, like the desert has drawn in a slow inhale to observe your presence. You kneel, pressing your palm gently to the ground. There, beneath your skin, the tremors return. Small pulses, evenly spaced, soft, measured, as though someone is walking just below the surface. Not quickly, not urgently, but with a kind of patient purpose, as if retracing a path they have walked many times before. Some say these are the footsteps of the travelers who vanished at the stone gate. Others say they are echoes carried by the earth itself. Memories of movement frozen in time and replayed beneath starlit nights. And some whisper that the valley is alive with the soft continuation of journeys that never ended. You rise slowly, your breath steady. The tremors move again. A little further ahead, inviting you forward. You follow. Your steps are quiet, your pace gentle, matching the soft rhythm beneath you. It feels less like walking, and more like being guided by something unseen, something ancient, something tender. The wind shifts. At first, you hear only a low murmur, a single note drawn across the dunes. Then the breeze gathers strength, spiraling in gentle circles around a hollow ahead. You approach the hollow. It rests between two dunes sloped like soft shoulders, cradling a sleeping form. The wind moves strangely here. Not straight, not wandering, but circling, spiraling inward like the desert's own breath. Moonlight catches the motion, revealing small whirlpools of sand lifting into the air then falling again in delicate patterns. As you step closer, the tremors intensify. Still soft, still subtle, but rhythmic, like footsteps pacing the hollow center. You descend into the depression. Your feet sink slightly into the sand, warm from the day's memory of the sun. The air deepens into stillness. Only the circling wind moves. It brushes your skin like a cautious hand, examining the shape of your presence. And then, beneath your feet, you feel a larger tremor, a pulse, a step, not heavy, not startling, but unmistakable. Someone once walked here, someone whose echo still lingers in the earth's slow, ancient memory. The wind shifts again, lifting sand from the hollow center. As grains swirl away, something emerges beneath them. Stone. Not just one stone. Many. Arranged deliberately, forming patterns too precise to be the result of nature alone. You kneel again. The stones are smooth, polished by time, etched with faint lines that resemble spirals and pathways. Some stones form narrow lines, others form open curves, and still others radiate outward like the branching veins of a leaf. Together, they create a pattern that could be a map, a prayer, or a memory. You inhale softly. This is no accident. This is a message left by those who once passed here. A record of movement, a record of echo, a record of footsteps that walked toward the gate and never walked back. You rest your hand on the central stone. Beneath it, the earth trembles. Not enough to frighten, but enough to confirm that something beneath these stones still remembers, still moves, still echoes. The sky deepens into twilight. Dusk gathers its final threads and tucks them beneath the horizon. Stars emerge one by one in quiet procession. The wind gentles. Its spirals loosen. The hollow grows still. Then the footsteps begin again. Beneath the sand, beneath the stones. Softer now, more rhythmic. A steady cadence. You close your eyes. A picture forms in the darkness behind them. A caravan walking in silence. Not speaking, not chanting, not calling, just walking. Feet sinking into sand. Breaths rising into night. Lanterns swinging like pendulums between sky and earth. The quiet weight of purpose guiding them forward. The star they followed glowed low above them, its pale flame trembling as if uncertain whether it belonged to the sky or the horizon. They approached the gate. Their steps slowed, their shadows stretched, and then they were gone. But their footsteps remained, held in the earth like breaths held in the chest of something ancient. And now those footsteps rise again, echoing beneath you, soft pulses, steady, guiding. You open your eyes. In the moonlight, the hollow glows, faintly. Light reflecting off the patterns of stone as though responding to the echo beneath. You stand slowly, still listening. The footsteps grow louder, soft but clearer. A gentle march toward understanding. You follow them, each tremor leading you up the side of the hollow toward the crest of the dune. As you ascend, the tremors deepen. The earth hums like the quiet throat of a drum. At the top, you stop. The desert stretches before you, a vast ocean of moonlit forms, each dune shaped by wind and time into soft sweeping curves. And there, moving through the sand below, you see it. A line. a path, not drawn on the surface, but beneath it, a line of pulsing tremors leading outward, leading somewhere you cannot see, a path of footsteps no eyes can follow, but the earth can feel, a continuation, a journey not ended, but simply hidden. You descend the dunes slowly, following the deepening pulses. The sand shifts beneath your feet as though responding to the echoes below. Every few steps, the tremors change direction subtly. Not enough to confuse, but enough to convey a message. This path is not straight. It flows, curves, breathes, like memory, like longing, like the journey of those who walk not toward a place, but toward a feeling. You pause again as the tremors intensify. They become steady. Not footsteps now, but something like a heartbeat, a soft, rhythmic thrum beneath the sand. You kneel and place your ear to the ground. You listen. What rises is not sound, not movement, but presence. A presence that feels like an echo of many footsteps fused into one. A collective breath, a collective longing, a collective continuation. Their journey never ended. It simply changed form. And beneath the sand, beneath the silence, beneath the weight of time, the earth remembers. The wind shifts one final time. A soft sweep, a gentle hush, then stillness. Absolute. The tremors fade. Gradually, like a dream dissolving as morning approaches, the earth becomes silent again. The hollow grows empty. Only starlight remains, settling over the dunes like a thin veil. You stand slowly, the desert cooled beneath your feet. You look back toward the horizon, toward the distant silhouette of the gate. The echo of footsteps lingers in your bones, in your breath, in the stillness around you. Perhaps those footsteps are not remnants of the lost. Perhaps they are reminders, gentle ones, that some journeys continue long after eyes can no longer follow them. Journeys carried in silence. Journeys kept alive in memory. Journeys preserved in the soft trembling of the earth's own heart. You exhale. The night exhales with you. And as you turn to leave the valley, a final thought settles over you like a whisper draped in starlight. Some voices only echo beneath the silence. Some paths only continue beneath the sand. And some journeys, even those taken long ago, never truly end. The lantern that refused to go out. It is said that some lights do not burn merely to illuminate the world around them. They burn to remember. They glow not against darkness, but through it, quietly carrying the warmth of a soul long after that soul has stepped beyond the reach of ordinary footsteps. And tonight, beneath a sky brushed in soft dusk and pale moonrise, you walk once more into the valley of vanished travelers, to a place where the wind whispers like an old storyteller who has seen more than words can hold. There, half buried near the threshold of the ancient gate where so many journeys ended without return, you find a lantern. Simple, weathered, glass clouded by time, metal darkened to a warm, dusty bronze. Yet when your fingers brush its surface, warmth. A warmth that should not exist in an object abandoned to cold nights and wandering sands. You draw in a breath, soft, slow, as though the lantern has breathed first and invited you to join. A faint glow stirs within the glass, not a flame, not even a spark. Something gentler, something like the memory of light. You lift the lantern carefully. Its glass hums faintly beneath your palm, as though recognizing a familiar touch. When the moonlight falls upon it, the glow strengthens, shifting into delicate shapes that move within the chamber of the lantern like silhouettes drifting across distant horizons. Shadows of mountains rise and fall. Rivers snake in patterns that feel ancient yet unfamiliar. Coastlines tremble like breaths, turning into words that never quite form. Each shape glows with a soft blue radiance, cool and celestial. A starlight woven into memory. You hold the lantern higher. The shapes shift again, as though responding to the tilt of your thoughts. A valley appears, then dissolves. Then a forest of tall, whispering pines. Then a coastline shaped like a curled petal. Then a range of mountains glowing faintly, as though dusted in moonlit frost. Places you have never seen. Places no map has marked. Places that feel like the geography of dream rather than land. Perhaps, you think, these are not memories of the wanderer's past, but impressions of the realm they sought. A world beyond the threshold. A world held gently within the lantern's quiet heart. Whispers tell us that the lantern belonged to a wanderer, unlike any who walked the desert before or since. A figure who moved with unshakable calm, their footsteps soft, their gaze steady, their breath carrying gratitude for every shifting grain of sand beneath them. The wanderer walked alone, not out of loneliness, but out of devotion. Some say they sought nothing but a place where silence lived without fear. Others claim they followed the low-burning star that had guided caravans into the unknown. Still others believe they searched for a way to carry peace into a realm where time could not touch it. Whatever truth guided their steps, the wanderer carried this lantern until their final moment in the waking world. Right here, before the stone gate that swallowed countless travelers, it was found gently placed at the base of the arch as though set down with great reverence. Not abandoned, not dropped, placed. A farewell offering. A quiet acknowledgement that some things must be left behind, done so others may continue forward. You turn the lantern in your hands. Its warmth spreads, gentle as a memory you did not realize you carried. A soft ache rises in your chest. Not sadness, not exactly. Something closer to nostalgia, but for a story you do not yet know. The glow inside the glass flickers again, casting shapes on the sand at your feet. You see shadows, not of landscapes this time, but of movement. A figure walking through dunes, lantern in hand, moonlight catching on their shoulders. Their steps are slow but purposeful, as though each one is a prayer, an offering or a promise. Their head tilts slightly as though listening to the wind. Their free hand opens as though blessing the path before them. And just when the figure reaches the threshold of the gate, the shadow dissolves. Only the lantern remains. You feel your breath catch. Did the wanderer step into danger? Or into a dream? Did the lantern capture their final moments? Or merely the imprint of their hope? The shapes flicker again, pulling your thoughts like a tide toward the deeper questions the desert never answers. You sit in the sand, the lantern resting on your lap. The night is quiet, save for the soft whisper of wind stirring grains around you. Above, the sky deepens into a tapestry where stars bloom like ancient blossoms. The lantern's glow gently pulses, in rhythm with the soft ache beneath your ribs. You lean closer to it, For a moment, you imagine the wanderer sitting here, just as you do, their hands steady, their breath warm, their thoughts drifting somewhere between longing and acceptance. Perhaps they whispered something into the lantern's glass before stepping into the unknown. A final gratitude, a wish, a name carried like a secret. Perhaps the lantern is warm because their breath still lingers within it. A warmth no wind can extinguish. A warmth time cannot unravel. You turn your gaze toward the gate. Even in the night's gentle hush, its silhouette carries a presence. Quiet, solemn, as though carved not by tools, but by centuries of longing. A thin strip of moonlight rests along its top edge, giving the arch the appearance of a closed eye opening slightly to watch you. The lantern glows brighter when you face the gate. Its shapes become sharper, coastlines forming themselves with more certainty. You lift it again, and for a moment, a single breath of a moment, you see something beyond shapes. You see motion. Light gathering into a spiral turning into a door opening into a space that shifts like water and shimmers like dawn. And then, just as quickly, it dissolves. The lantern dims, but remains warm, as though reassuring you that what you saw was not a trick of the mind, but a memory, a remnant, a whisper. Some believe the lantern did not merely follow the wanderer. It learned from them. It learned how to hold light gently without force. How to remember what should not be forgotten. How to glow even when all flame is gone. Others say the lantern's glow is a remnant of the star that led the wanderers and caravans toward the gate. That its glass contains a piece of the star's eternal shimmer. A shard of the celestial longing captured in bronze and glass. But the oldest whispers of all say this. Some lights refuse to go out because they were never meant to guide the eyes. Only the heart. You hold the lantern close. Its warmth spreads like quiet reassurance, a reminder that even in silence, something listens, something remembers, something continues. You rise, the soft sand shifting beneath your weight. The lantern swings gently from your hand. Its glow seeps through your fingers, casting ribbons of blue light along the dunes. As you walk, the desert responds. The air thickens, the wind slows, the night deepens into a sacred quiet. Shadows drift along the dunes like softened echoes. Your footsteps fall beside the faint impressions of ancient ones. You imagine the wanderer again, their calm presence, their gratitude whispered into the wind. Perhaps they left the lantern behind not out of necessity, but as an act of compassion, a gift for those who would follow, a reminder that even in the darkest crossings, light can remain, not bright, not blazing, but steady and warm. You reach the foot of a low dune and pause once more. The lantern flickers softly, not fading, but breathing in rhythm with the desert's own quiet pulse. You hold it close. The warmth lingers on your palms, softening into your skin like a familiar memory returning home. A quiet sorrow rises. Not heavy, not bitter. A sorrow shaped like love. The ache of knowing that some stories end in silence because silence was always their destination. The ache of knowing that some journeys do not return to us because they were always meant to continue elsewhere. Somewhere gentle, somewhere quiet, somewhere the waking world cannot hold. The lantern dims, but does not extinguish. Its glow softens into the pale blue hue of starlight resting on still water. Its warmth remains. You stand beneath the moonlit sky and exhale. The desert exhales with you. And as you lower the lantern to your side, a final thought drifts through you. Soft as dust, gentle as ancient breath. Perhaps some lights do not extinguish because their keepers have not truly vanished. Perhaps they walk still, somewhere beyond the gate. Their path glowing quietly in realms only the heart can follow. You turn away from the gate. The lantern glows behind you, casting a soft trail of light across the sand like a whispered blessing. And as you walk into the quiet folds of night, the lantern remains warm. A reminder that some stories never truly end. Some simply continue in silence. The Valley of Forgotten Promises. It is said that in some places, silence is not emptiness. It is memory. A breath held by the earth. A hush shaped by those who once passed through and those who never returned. And tonight, beneath a sky washed in silver dusk and the first trembling stars of evening, you find yourself standing at the edge of such a place, the Valley of Forgotten Promises. It stretches before you in a broad sweep of soft sand and pale stone, bathed in the gentle glow of moonrise. The desert gate, the ancient arch where so many travelers vanished, stands behind you, a watcher carved in weathered stone. But here, in the valley lying before it, the air carries something else. A hum, faint, but unmistakable. A quiet undercurrent, like the lingering breath of words once spoken, but never finished. You step forward. The sand beneath your feet feels softer here, warmer, as though it has cradled countless footsteps and thousands of whispered vows still pulsing gently beneath its surface. The wind rises in a soft, steady sigh, moving around you as though welcoming your arrival into a place that has been waiting for your quiet attention. Your journey begins. As you walk deeper into the valley, the landscape changes in small, delicate ways. Stone outcroppings rise on either side, their edges rounded by centuries of wind. Within each crevice, places where the stone folds like a careful hand, you begin to see them, offerings. Small objects tucked with tenderness, placed by travelers who crossed this valley on their way to the gate, on their way into the unknown. You kneel beside the first one you find. A ring carved from smooth river stone, its surface faintly etched with spirals that catch the moonlight, as though holding the memory of the person who carved it. You lift the ring gently. It fits perfectly in your palm. Warm, not from your touch, but from something deeper, as though it remembers the hand that placed it here. You place it back. It belongs to the valley now. You rise and walk further. The next offering is a strip of cloth, embroidered with a sigil so faded it looks more like memory than thread. You trace its edge lightly with your finger. A symbol of lineage? A blessing? Farewell to someone left behind? You do not know, but the cloth hums faintly beneath your touch, as though carrying an echo of the vow once whispered over it. Farther still, you find a small figurine, carved from what looks like bone, its surface shaped into the posture of prayer. Kneeling, head bowed, hands clasped. It is tiny, fragile, carefully made. Someone carried this with intention, Someone set it here as their final promise to the world they knew before stepping through the gate. You close your eyes. In the darkness, you can almost feel the spirits of those travelers. Soft shapes moving through the air, their hopes carried on breath and dust. And the valley, still and wide beneath the moon, holds them gently, not as ghosts, but as memories, promises that refuse to be lost. The wind rises again, a little stronger now, curling around your ankles like a quiet question. It carries whispers, faint, fragmented, like pieces of old dreams torn free from the stones. You stop walking. You listen. The whispers are not voices, not fully. They are the impression of voices, the gentle exhale of words once spoken, but never finished. You stand in the center of the valley and let your breath align with the wind. The moonlight settles across your shoulders like a soft hand, guiding you deeper. This is where they paused, the wind seems to say. This is where they promised. This is where their hearts weighed more than their steps. You look around again, and this time you see patterns. The offerings are not scattered randomly. They form a line, a soft curve across the valley floor, leading toward the gate. Each object tucked gently into the stones marks a moment. A vow, a fear, a hope, a farewell, a piece of themselves left behind so that part of their story would remain in the waking world even as they walked into the unknown. You walk the line slowly, as though retracing their path. A cracked piece of pottery, painted with spirals and small star-marked dots. A bundle of herbs wrapped with thread, its scent long faded, but its intention still lingering. A shell, smooth, oceanic, carried from a place far from this desert. Who treasured this shell? Who carried it in their pocket through days of heat and nights of cold before placing it here as their final offering? You lift it gently. The shell feels cool, but beneath its coolness you sense warmth. A warmth that cannot be explained, only felt. You smile softly, saddened and comforted at once. This valley is a place where longing gathers, but does not demand answers, where promises rest without expectation. As you walk deeper, the valley widens. The wind swirls with delicate precision, forming small spirals of dust that rise and fall like breath drawn in sacred ritual. The moon climbs higher, casting long silver shadows from the stone outcroppings and offering a quiet crown to each forgotten relic. A sense of presence grows around us and around you, not frightening, not heavy, but aware. The valley is watching, listening, holding the shape of every promise ever whispered here. In forgotten corners of the earth, it is said that some valleys do not echo sound. They echo feeling, echo longing, echo vows, echo the soft ache of hopes that were left unfinished. You begin to understand why travelers paused here before approaching the gate. Not just to rest, not just to breathe, but to acknowledge what they carried in their hearts, to let the valley hold what they could not take with them, to leave behind the part of themselves that still belonged to the world they knew. You reach the far edge of the valley, where the dune rises gently into a pale crest. You climb it slowly, the sand shifting beneath your feet like warm water. At the top, you turn back. Below you, the valley stretches like a vast, quiet bowl, a cradle of moonlight and memory. The offerings gleam faintly in the silver glow, small stars scattered across sand. little anchors left in a world the travelers loved, even as they stepped into another. You sit on the dune crest. The wind stills. The valley becomes impossibly quiet. So quiet that the silence feels sacred, as though the very air is holding its breath to honor what remains within it. And then, from the far edge of the valley, from a place where the dune dips into soft shadow, you hear it, a whisper. Not wind, not memory, something gentler, something like the final exhale of someone whispering a promise to return, or to let go, or to be remembered. The moonlight deepens. The valley begins to shimmer, not brightly, but softly, like dust reflecting the glow of a distant star. The offerings glow, each one humming faintly with unseen warmth. You sense it now. The weight of this place. Not burden, but presence. The valley holds unfinished dreams with tenderness. The valley holds promises without judgment. The valley holds longing without sorrow. And in this quiet, you feel a truth rising within you. The travelers did not leave their offerings because they feared what lay ahead. They left them because the heart cannot cross every threshold at once. Some pieces must stay behind where they were first born. In the world of sunlight and memory, and hands that shaped stone and whispered vows against dawn, some pieces must walk forward unburdened, unbound, untethered. Carried only by the wind, you rise, your breath soft in the cool air. The valley seems to pulse with a final, gentle sigh. You descend the dunes slowly, your footsteps aligning with those who walk before you. You leave no offerings, but you feel their presence around you, the quiet warmth of countless hearts that once stood here and whispered promises into the night. And as you step out of the valley, a final thought brushes your mind. Soft as dust, tender as dawn. Perhaps these offerings do not mourn the travelers. Perhaps they celebrate them. Pieces of hope left behind where memory fades but never fully disappears. Perhaps the valley of forgotten promises is not a place of endings, but a garden of beginnings, waiting in silence for those who know how to listen. You walk on. The desert wind rises again. Moonlight wraps the valley in silver. And the promises left behind continue to glow long after the hands that placed them have passed into dream. The moonlit veil above the gate. It is said that there are nights when the world inhales and something ancient stirs beneath the surface of everything we know. Nights when the moon climbs to a place so precise, so delicately aligned with stones older than memory, that the veil between the seen and the unseen gathers into something almost visible. And tonight, you stand before such a night, before such a veil, before the gate that has waited longer than any chronicle can recall. Its carved arch rising from the desert, like the last line in a poem, the earth never finished. The air is cool, the wind holds its breath, and the sand beneath your feet glows faintly as the moon begins its ascent toward the perfect height. The stone gate looms ahead, ancient, softened by centuries. Its spirals weathered to gentle curves that whisper of hands no one remembers. It stands alone at the valley's far edge. Too deliberate to be a ruin, too quiet to be a monument. Some say it was carved as a threshold between two worlds. Some say it was never meant for crossing, but for watching. Some say it is the last remnant of a civilization that mapped the stars not for guidance, but for remembrance. The moon continues to rise. Its light, pale as frost and soft as breath, slips across the sand like a silver tide returning to shore. You step closer until you can see your reflection in the stone. A faint shimmer bending along its curve. Behind you, night deepens into a quiet that feels almost ceremonial, as though the world itself is preparing to witness something sacred. It begins subtly. A shift in the air, a trembling in the light. The moon now hangs directly above the gate, its glow falling like a single silver waterfall that spills along the arch, painting its surface in trembling radiance. And then, the shimmer. The stone begins to ripple as though made of water. You blink, but it does not stop. The archway shimmers like a mirage, like heat rising from sand, or breath fogging on cold glass. It is said that on nights like this, the boundary between realms grows thin enough to touch. You step closer. The light intensifies until the spirals carved into the stone begin to glow from within, each line bending as if stirring from long sleep. A soft hum rises, barely above silence. Not sound, not exactly. Something between vibration and memory. The gate is waking. Legends whisper that travelers once stood here on nights of alignment, hoping to glimpse what lay beyond the threshold. They claim the gate revealed visions, not fully formed, not solid, but shadows, contours of forests so ancient their trees glowed like embers, silhouettes of towers rising from misted plains, fragments of mountains that curved like the spines of sleeping beasts. Not places one could walk to, not places of this earth, places that existed in the space between story and dream, between breath and silence, between what the moon remembers and what the world forgets. And tonight, you see them too. The shimmering surface of the arch thickens for a moment, like fog gathering around a lantern. Shapes pulse beneath the veil, shifting softly, as though carried by the tides of memory. At first, they are indistinct, blurs, movements, ripples in light. Then, a faint outline, a forest, its boughs heavy with shadow, its leaves trembling as though touched by wind from a world that does not exist. You hold your breath. The trees fade. A heartbeat later, a tower rises in their place, tall and skeletal, its edges glimmering like frost catching first light. Then it dissolves too, washed away by the shimmering tide. The veil flickers. A mountain now, dark, massive, its peak illuminated by a strange celestial glow. You feel the pull of it. Not fear, but recognition. Recognition of something you have never seen but somehow remember. As though a distant ancestor stood here before you, their breath mixing with moonlit dust, their gaze fixed upon this very vision. You kneel. The air thickens, the shimmering quickens. The gate pulses like the throat of an ancient creature drawing breath after centuries of sleep. And then, in an instant, stillness. The shapes collapse inward, sinking into the veil like stones dropped into deep water. The gate becomes opaque again, quiet, stone, unmoved, as if nothing had stirred at all. You exhale slowly, your breath clouding faintly in the cooling air. The moon drifts a little higher, just a fraction, and its perfect alignment breaks. The veil fades. The arch returns to its weathered quiet. A sense of longing lingers, soft as dust on the tongue. A feeling that something ancient came close to being known. Close, but not quite. Beneath the silence, you hear a whisper. Not words, not sound. A memory brushing gently against the edge of your awareness. Perhaps the gate once opened. Perhaps it never did. Perhaps its purpose is not message, but reflection, showing not what lies beyond the world, but what lies beneath the mind. You stand slowly, feeling the sand shift beneath your feet. The valley behind you shimmers under moonlight, its contours soft and pale. As though dreaming, the wind rises in a delicate sigh. It carries with it the faintest echo of the visions. Forest, tower, mountain, and then folds into silence again. You turn back to the gate. The spirals carved into its inner walls still glow faintly, as though holding the last traces of the moon's silver touch. You trace them with your fingertips. The stone is cool now, still, empty, yet somehow vibrating with a memory you cannot hear. Some believe the gate is a threshold between realms. Others claim it is a mirror that shows a traveler their deepest longing. Still others whisper that the visions are not glimpses of some hidden world, but echoes of the world as it once was, or might be again. Under moonlit breath, truth and myth blend easily, and the gate remains silent. You feel a soft ache in your chest, an ache familiar to anyone who has ever gazed too long at a horizon they knew they would never reach. The moon climbs higher. The veil lifts. The world returns to its usual quiet. But the gate does not feel empty. It feels watching patient, remembering something you cannot. You step back and sit on the sand, letting the cool grains cradle you. The night deepens. The dunes shift subtly. The stars pulse in gentle rhythms. And the gate, old, weathered, magnificent in its solitude, waits in the silver glow. You close your eyes. If you listen carefully, beneath the sound of wind, beneath the hush of sand, beneath the beat of your own heart, you can almost hear a faint, rhythmic echo, like breath, like memory, like something beyond words whispering from the other side of the veil. Perhaps the visions were never meant to answer anything. Perhaps they were simply reminders that the world is wider than the boundaries we see. That memory stretches further than the horizon we trust. That silence holds more truth than spoken history. The gate glows faintly one last time. A soft silver pulse, like a final blink from a dreaming eye. Then the glow dims, the spirals fade, and the moon drifts higher, casting long shadows across the valley. You rise slowly. The sand slips beneath your feet. The world feels quiet, but not empty, full of ancient breath, full of forgotten visions, full of the gentle certainty that something once stirred here. Perhaps still does. As you turn to leave, the wind brushes your cheek. A soft, cool touch, like a whisper. Some voices only echo when the moon is listening. And tonight, beneath the shimmering veil, you have heard one. A voice from where memory fades, from where silence deepens, from where the unseen meets the seen. Just for a moment, just long enough to remind you that wonder lives everywhere the world grows quiet. You walk back into the night, your steps soft, your breath calm, carrying the silver glow of the moonlit veil in the quiet center of your heart. The birds that would not fly past the threshold. It is said that some places are not guarded by walls or by iron, or by any power born from the hands of humankind, but by silence. A silence so deep, so patient, that even the wind chooses its steps with care when it brushes past. And tonight, as dawn stirs faintly behind the eastern dunes, you find yourself approaching one such boundary. The stone gate where countless travelers vanished, where whispers gather like dust rising from a forgotten dream. But it is not the gate that holds your attention now. It is the sky above it. For there, circling in quiet, deliberate arcs above the cliffs that crown the valley, the birds are gathering. They move in soft spirals, their wings catching the first gold of early morning sun, their bodies gliding with the calm certainty of creatures who know far more than they are able to say. Their flight is silent. No calls, no cries, no song. Only spirals, only motion, only breath on the wind. And then you see it. Again and again, the birds circle toward the archer's shadow, drawn perhaps by curiosity, perhaps by instinct. But always, always, they turn back before they cross it. Their wings tilt, their bodies shift, their spirals tighten, pulling them away from the threshold as though the air itself pushes them back. You watch this pattern unfold like a ritual repeated over countless mornings. The silence deepens, and the birds continue their patient dance. The valley below is wide and pale. Its sand holds the faint color of worn parchment, rippling in gentle waves as dawn gathers in soft rose and gold. The stone gate rises at its far end, still in shadow, its spirals carved in deep relief far older than memory. But above it, the air shimmers. A veil you almost sense rather than see. Some say the birds refuse to cross because of what lies beyond the gate. A realm where sound dissolves, where wings lose their purpose, where the very air forgets how to carry life. Others claim the birds guard the threshold, circling to warn travelers who approach without understanding. And still others whisper that the gate hums with a tone only birds can hear. A tone so ancient and low it trembles the bones of the sky itself. You stand for a long moment, listening, watching. The birds glide with unbroken grace, their shadows drifting across the cliffs like strokes of soft charcoal. Your breath slows. Your heartbeat softens. The ritual continues. You decide to climb. The cliffs rise in uneven steps, their sandstone surfaces warm from 1,000 dawns. You use your hands, your feet, your breath, moving slowly as though rising into another world. The wind grows stronger as you ascend, brushing past your ears with faint hums and sighs. When you reach the first ledge, you pause. Below, the valley stretches wide and silent. The gate's arch forms a dark curve against the glowing horizon. Above, the birds continue their circling. Their movements are slow, purposeful. A dance of refusal, a soft boundary, a gentle warning written in flight. You keep climbing, higher and higher. The stone grows cooler as morning deepens. Shadows gather in soft folds beneath hidden crevices. And then, you see them, petroglyphs, carved directly into the cliff face, etched into the stone as though the mountain itself once opened its surface to be written on. The carvings depict birds, hundreds of them, some large, some small, some with wings open wide, others with wings folded in rest. All of them, every single one, face away from the gate. None point toward it. None look across the threshold. Their carved wings sweep outward like gentle warnings, like quiet gestures of farewell. You trail your fingers along the carvings. The stone is cool and smooth, where centuries of wind have polished it. Yet the shapes remain distinct, as though they carry a memory the earth refuses to let go. The wind sweeps past again, humming through the hollows of the cliff with a soft, vibrating resonance. It sounds almost like birdsong, but stretched thin, slowed, gentled into something closer to breath than melody. You close your eyes. For a moment, you hear it. Not clearly, not fully, but faintly. A tone, low, deep, sustained. Not a voice, not a warning. A hum that seems to rise from the stone gate itself, echoing upward in the language of air and memory. You open your eyes as the hum fades. The circling birds continue overhead, but now you see their flight differently. Each turn, each tilt, each arc, none random, none casual. Their wings respond to something unseen, something you now recognize in the hum of the wind. A boundary, a breath the world exhaled long ago, marking a place where the ordinary laws of air and sound and passage fall away. You sit on the cliff's edge. The birds circle above you, their wings catching sunlight that warms the cliff face in soft gold. Their shadows drift across your lap, across your hands, across the carvings behind you. It feels like a blessing, or a farewell, or both. You descend slowly, your steps careful, your breath calm, as you reach the valley floor once more. The birds shift their formation, their spirals broaden, their arcs widening into a vast circle above the valley. You stand beneath them as they glide overhead, silent, graceful, eternal in their ritual. A single feather drifts down, spiraling gently toward the sand. It lands near your foot, soft as starlight. You lift it. The feather is warm, warm, though dawn's wind is cool. You turn toward the gate. The arch's shadow stretches long, its spirals catching the faint glow of the rising sun. The feather trembles in your hand. A soft pulse moves through it. Subtle, delicate, like the memory of flight. You walk toward the gate. The birds tighten their circle. Their wings brush the sky with a sound so soft you cannot hear it. But you feel it, like breath resting against your thoughts. You pause a few steps from the threshold. The wind has grown still again. The world holds its breath. The feather warms further, as though recognizing the boundary. Then, you release it. The feather drifts downward, caught by a slow spiral of air. It approaches the shadow of the gate, and just before it touches the threshold, it lifts. Suddenly, softly, as though drawn back by an unseen hand, it floats upward, back into open air, back toward the circling birds. You inhale. A gentle ache gathers beneath your ribs. Not fear, not regret, recognition, understanding. The birds will not cross because the threshold is not for them. Not all realms welcome every traveler. Some boundaries were carved for silence, not wings. Some landscapes were shaped for those who walk with breath and intention. not those carried by wind and instinct. The birds circle, not to warn you, but to watch, to witness, to honor the path they themselves cannot take. As the feather returns to the sky, their formation loosens, and the birds drift across the valley in widening arcs, their wings shimmering in golden light. The sun rises fully now, casting a wash of soft warmth across the sand, across the cliffs, across the gate. The shadows shrink, the stone glows, and slowly the birds fly away. Not hurried, not startled, graceful, patient, leaving the valley with the same quiet reverence with which they circled it. You remain standing before the gate. You feel the weight of their silence, the weight of their refusal, the weight of their soft, wordless wisdom. Perhaps the birds sense something on the other side that human senses cannot. Perhaps they felt the absence of sky, the absence of breath, the absence of sound. Or perhaps they simply knew that the gate's path is not meant to be flown, only walked, only chosen, only entered when the heart is ready. You place your hand on the sand. It is warm now, steady, alive. The valley hums faintly as morning unfolds. The gate waits, unchanged. It spirals, catching the new light like threads of gold woven into centuries of stone. A soft breeze rises, carrying the remnants of the birds passing. Their silence lingers, not heavy, but sacred. A reminder wrapped in breath, in dust, in shimmer. Not all realms welcome every traveler. Some doors open only to those who arrive with the right kind of quiet. You step back. The valley watches. The gate listens. And the birds, far in the distance now, circle one last time before disappearing into the pale morning sky. You turn away, your heart calm, your thoughts softened by the message they left behind. A message carried not in words or melody, but in refusal, gentle, wise, and echoing into the silence. Some thresholds must be honored from a distance. Some journeys belong to footsteps, not wings. And some truths whisper themselves only to those who know how to listen beneath the hush of early morning light. The stone book of returning shadows. It is said that in forgotten corners of the earth, the past does not sleep as deeply as we believe. Some memories linger beneath the sand, waiting for moonlight to coax them awake. Some stories refuse to remain buried, stretching faint silhouettes through time in search of someone gentle enough to listen without fear. And tonight, under a pale moon that rises like a watchful, silver eye, you walk toward a wind-sculpted hollow near the ancient gate, where so many vanished. The night is hushed, soft. The air has the weight of something held sacred, as if the desert itself has paused its endless shifting for you to arrive. And then, just beyond the crest of a small dune, you see it. A stone slab, half buried, its surface rising from the sand like a page revealed from an ancient tome. A book of stone. The stone book of returning shadows, as old wanderers once called it. Its surface is carved with flowing symbols, markings that resemble shadows caught in the act of moving, their curves and strokes rippling gently under the touch of moonlight. At first glance, the engravings look like nothing more than worn grooves, their meanings eroded by time. But as the moon ascends higher, its glow deepening into cool silver, something stirs. The symbols darken, thicken, lean outward, as though lifting themselves from the stone. You step closer, your breath quiet, your heartbeat soft. The air cools around you as the shadows on the slab begin to move. It begins delicately, a soft tremble running along the engravings, like the flicker of a candle flame caught in a breath. Then the shapes grow deeper, their silhouettes swelling into darker forms that seem to hover just above the stone. You kneel beside the slab. The sand shifts beneath your weight in a sigh-like pattern, as though adjusting to your presence. The first shape reveals itself, a face. Not fully formed, not solid, but a suggestion of features. Eyes hinted by darker patches, a brow carved in moonlit shadow, a mouth half open as though caught in the moment before a whisper. You lean closer, the face leans too, for a heartbeat toward you, then wavers back and forth, like a flame struggling to hold shape. You do not pull away. This is the nature of the stone book. It reveals, but does not remain, offers, but does not explain. You watch as the face dissolves into soft tendrils of shadow that fold back into the stone's lines. A second form rises, this one wider. Its shape unmistakably that of a landscape, a mountain curve, a river flowing at its base, a grove of the trees shaped like tears falling into the earth. Not a place you recognize, yet something about it feels strangely intimate, as though this scene once lived in the quiet corners of someone's heart. The image tilts slightly, as if looking toward you, and then dissolves, recasting itself into drifting strands. The third form rises, and this time there is no face, no landscape, only feeling. A shape made of grief. Not sharp, but soft. Like the aching curve of someone letting go of something they loved. The shadow quivers, pulsing with a tenderness that tightens your breath. Then another shape rises. Hope. Gentle. Radiant, though no light touches it. It glows from within like starlight caught in water. A final shape emerges behind it. Wonder. Open. Bright. Like the first moment of dawn breaking over a waiting horizon. And then, all at once, the shadows fold backward. Not violently, but with the quiet swiftness of a veil being drawn. The stone book settles. The engravings flatten. The shadows retreat into the grooves of the slab. What remains is stillness, the kind of silence that feels breathed, not empty. You sit beside the slab for a long time, watching the moonlight drift across it in slow waves. The air hums faintly, a vibration you feel more in your chest than your ears. Some believe the stone book holds the reflections of those who crossed through the gate and never returned. Not their bodies, not their voices, their echoes. The impressions they left behind as they stepped into the unknown. Fragments of their last thoughts, their last visions, their last hopes. The shadows that rose before you may have belonged to travelers whose names were erased by time. Or they may have belonged to paths dreamed but never walked. Others say the stone book is a mirror for the moon itself. That when the moon reaches her highest breath, she reflects all she has witnessed onto the slab below. Faces of wanderers, landscapes of worlds forgotten, emotions too tender to anchor themselves to memory. You rest your hand on the cool, soft surface of the stone. It does not glow now, but it feels warm. Warm in a way that suggests it holds more than carvings. more than symbols, more than shadows. It holds devotion to remembrance, to echo, to the quiet continuity between those who stayed and those who stepped beyond. You look around the hollow where the slab rests. The sand is smooth, unbroken by wind, as though the air respects this space and refuses to disturb it. A ring of stones surrounds the slab, half buried and softened by time. Each stone has faint markings, spirals, stars, half-formed figures, shapes that echo the language of the stone book. This hollow was sacred once. You can feel it, a place where wanderers paused before crossing the threshold, a place where they left their fears in the sand and whispered gratitude into the wind. Some say the stone book was carved by the same hands that shaped the gate. Others believe it carved itself, slowly collecting impressions from every traveler who knelt beside it. The truth, like all ancient truths, is veiled. The book reveals only what you are gentle enough to witness. Never more, never less. The moon drifts slowly westward, pulling her silver veil across the valley. As her height shifts, the shadows within the stone book grow thinner, fainter. Their trembling dims into soft smudges of darkness. One by one, they retreat until only the carved grooves remain. The desert exhales softly as though releasing something it held for a moment on your behalf. A faint tremor passes under your palm. The last pulse of a memory returning to sleep. The slab cools. The night deepens. A sense of uneasy beauty settles in your chest. A tenderness mixed with ache. A respect mixed with longing. Whose shadows sought to return? Why did they reach toward you, only to fade into silence? Were they asking for help, or offering a final gift? A glimpse, a reminder, a whisper shaped like farewell, or like welcome? The questions linger in soft, suspended quiet, not demanding answers, only presence, only breath, only the acknowledgement that some stories are too soft to be fully spoken. Dawn begins her slow ascent. A soft, muted blue spreads across the sky. The first hint of gold touches the eastern dunes. You stand, feeling the desert's temperature shift from cool dream to warm awakening. You watch as the light reaches the hollow. The slab brightens, but the engravings remain blank, silent, still, resting, as though nothing stirred there at all. But you felt the shadows rise. You saw their trembling bumps. You sensed their longing. They reached for the world, and then returned to whatever realm holds their full story. Perhaps the gate is not the only threshold here. Perhaps the stone book is a threshold of its own, a quiet link between the living and the remembered. Not the remembered as history recalls them, but the remembered as emotion holds them. You step away slowly, turning your gaze once more to the gate in the distance. The morning light softens its silhouette. The spirals carved along its arch glow faintly under dawn's touch. The valley is quiet, but beneath the silence you feel something. A hum, a warmth, a pulse. The same presence you felt in the shadows. The same presence that lingered in the slab. The same presence that seems to whisper now. Not all stories wish to be fully told at all end. Some only wish to brush against your spirit, then return to the quiet where they belong. You bow your head in gentle acknowledgement. The wind rises, brief, cool, tender, and carries your breath with it like a final note. You walk away from the slab. The dawn brightens, the shadows retreat, and the stone book returns to stillness. Its silent presence waiting patiently for the next traveler gentle enough to listen. The path that erased itself. It is said that in certain deserts, the ground does not merely bear the weight of travelers. It remembers them. It listens. It reflects. And sometimes it answers. But there are other paths. Paths so old, so deeply intertwined with silence and starlight, that they do not record footsteps at all. They erase them. Tonight, you walk toward one such path, guided not by certainty, but by the whisper of wind moving across moonlit dunes. The gate, ancient, weathered, watching, lies ahead, a shadow rising from the horizon like a question no one has yet answered. But before the gate comes the path, and the path is alive. In the pale glow of twilight, you begin to see the stones, faint shapes in the sand, their forms half buried like bones of a forgotten creature sleeping beneath the dunes. The stones are not large. Some barely fit in your palm. Others are wide and flat, their surfaces etched with symbols resembling spirals or echoes or movements of ancient breath. Placed end to end, they form a trail. A soft line woven across the desert floor, like a thread pulled gently through gold fabric. You follow the line carefully, your footsteps sinking into the cooling sand. At first, the arrangement seems simple. A curve, a turn, gentle slope over a small dune. But then, as the wind rises and drifts across the stones, you notice something impossible. The curve shifts, barely, but enough. The stones move, not by sliding, not by rolling, but by being reimagined. Their pattern changes in subtle vibrations, as though guided by a hand of wind or a memory beneath the desert's skin. You kneel. Place your palm on one stone. It is warm, too warm for a desert cooling into night. The warmth trembles beneath your touch, as though the stone has just decided where it wishes to be. You lift your hand slowly, not wanting to disturb whatever presence guides this shifting path. Twilight deepens. The wind curls around your ankles like a living ribbon. The path stretches ahead. Faint, trembling, waiting. You rise and follow it. Some believe the stones rearrange themselves to reflect the inner state of those who walk here. If a traveler approached the Bahapi's path with doubt in their heart, the stones would scatter into frayed lines, lost shapes, wandering loops that led nowhere. If one approached with longing, the stones would form arcs shaped like outstretched arms. Welcoming, yearning. If one approached with clarity, the stones would align into a near straight path, leading with gentle precision toward the gate. Others claim the stones do not respond to travelers at all, that the gate itself reshapes the path as a way of preparing each traveler uniquely, gently asking them to let go of whatever burden would hinder their passage. Perhaps neither is fully true. Perhaps both are. You walk onward, feeling your breath slow beneath the rising moon. The desert darkens. The sky blooms with stars. Soft, pale blossoms opening across the firmament. The stones glimmer faintly under that celestial bloom. As you trace the path further, the wind stirs again. A soft, deliberate sweep moving across the valley like a careful hand brushing dust from an old manuscript. The sand shifts around your feet. The stones tremble. Some lift, some settle, some tilt, some vanish beneath sudden swells of sand only to reappear moments later a few steps away. Slowly, relentlessly, the path changes. You pause. Turn back to look at where you began. The line of stones behind you no longer resembles the path you walked. The curve is gone. The shape is different. The journey has rewritten itself behind you, as if your footsteps were never meant to be remembered by anything but the sand itself. A soft thought drifts through your mind. No journey to the gate is ever the same. The wind grows stronger. Sand swirls in graceful spirals around the stones. Not chaotic spirals, but slow, deliberate ones, as though the desert is breathing. You continue onward. The stones gather into new arrangements beneath your steps. A crescent of stones here. A spiral there. A line that looks like a river's path. A cluster shaped like a constellation you can almost recognize. Each pattern feels intentional. None feel random. You walk slower now. Not out of caution, but reverence. This is not a path to be hurried. This is a path to be witnessed. A path to be understood, not with the mind, but with the breath. In forgotten corners of the world, some whisper that this path is older than the gate itself, older than the desert, older than the winds that carve stories into the dunes. They say the stones once marked a pilgrimage of a people long dissolved into memory, that the path was never fixed because the people themselves never walked the same way twice. Some carried sorrow, some carried haunting, some carried questions so heavy their shadows lingered for centuries. And so the stones adapted, shifting like water to guide each traveler where their spirit needed to go, not where their feet intended. Perhaps this is why the path erases itself at night, not to confuse, not to hide, but to release, to free each new traveler from the burden of another's steps, to ensure no one walks a path that is not theirs to walk. The wind calms, night deepens, a hush settles across the valley. Not silence, but stillness. A stillness so complete, it feels like the world is holding its breath. The stones begin to blur, slowly at first, softening around their edges like ink touched by water, then more quickly. Their shapes dissolving into the desert's embrace. One stone sinks beneath the sand. Another rolls gently aside. A third crumbles into a powder of light-colored dust. The path erodes before your eyes. Not violently, not suddenly, but gracefully, tenderly, as though the desert is folding the journey back into itself, as though the stones were never meant to remain in one place longer than a single night. You stop walking. There is no use continuing. By morning, the path ahead will no longer be the path you see now. It will be something new. Something shaped by your breath, your steps, your inner quiet. Just as the path behind you is already gone, rewritten by wind and time and the silent intelligence of sand, a soft sorrow rises in you. Not from loss, but from beauty. The beauty of a journey that refuses to be captured. The beauty of a path shaped by the shifting heart of the one who walks it. You kneel in the sand. It is cool now, soft, like the first breath of a story waiting to be told. You place your hand on one of the stones that has not yet blurred. It vibrates faintly, a gentle echo, like the sigh of someone remembering their own steps from long ago. Your breath catches. For a moment, you wonder if the stone is responding to something within you, to doubt, to longing, to questions you did not realize you carried into the valley. The wind lifts again, sand swirls, the stone trembles and fades. You stand. The path is gone. All that remains is the whisper of starlight across the dunes and the faint impression of movement beneath the sand. Some say the stones do not disappear. They simply return to their true forms beneath the earth. That when the desert breathes deeply, the stones rise again, shaking off the dust like old memories stretching awake. Others claim the stones walk on their own, moving beneath the sand like soft, ancient creatures waiting for the next traveler. Still others whisper that the stones remember the feet that last touched them, and that no path will ever form the same way twice because no journey is ever repeated. You walk back toward the gate in the distance. The night is cool. The dunes shimmer like waves caught under moonlight. Behind you, the valley rests, empty, quiet, perfectly still. Ahead, the gate awaits. A shadow carved from stone, patient, eternal. And as you approach it, a final thought drifts through your mind, soft as dust, gentle as dawn. Perhaps the path erases itself because it was never meant to teach us where to go, only how to walk. You exhale deeply. The desert exhales with you. And you step forward, carried by the quiet understanding that some journeys are shaped not by the stones beneath our feet, but by the silence that rises to meet us as we walk. The whisper left on the threshold. It is said that some stones do not simply stand in silence. They hold silence. They gather it patiently, breath, ancient breath, until even the wind hesitates to disturb what has been stored there. And tonight, under the dim hush of a moon half veiled by drifting desert clouds, you find yourself standing before one such stone. The gate. Carved long before memory, its spiraled arch rises from the sands like the last remnant of a forgotten temple. The air around it is thinner than the rest of the night, as though time itself steps lightly here. You walk closer, your footsteps quiet, your breath shallow, your thoughts softened by the vast stillness of the valley. The gate waits, watching, listening, holding its silence like a final word never spoken. You kneel before it. The sand shifts beneath your knees with a soft sigh, a sound almost like recognition. You press your palms against the cool stone. It meets your touch with a chill so pure it feels ceremonial, sacred, as if countless palms have rested here before yours, each seeking something unnamed, each leaving behind a trace of breath the stone has gathered into the depths of its memory. You close your eyes. The stone hums. Not loudly, not sharply. A faint vibration, barely noticeable, like the echo of a chorus that once filled this valley but has long since faded beyond hearing. The hum travels up your arms, into your chest, settling in the space between heartbeat and breath, a place where the body listens with more than ears. It is said that every traveler who stepped through this gate heard a whisper, not with the ear, but with the inner chamber of the chest. Not a voice, but a breath shaped like meaning. Some described it as a farewell. Others called it an invitation. Most simply placed their hands as you have done now, and listened. You inhale slowly. The gate exhales, a breeze sweeps through the archway. Cold, thin, delicate. It brushes your face with the softness of a sigh. The hum deepens. The stone beneath your palms grows almost warm, as though stirred by a memory you cannot yet reach. The air thickens around the arch. The world outside the gate feels distant now. The dunes, the valley, the stars themselves seeming to drift further away. Your breath slows, your heartbeat quiets. The silence deepens until it becomes a presence. Not empty, but full. Full of something on the edge of becoming. Then there is a shift. So subtle you might have missed it had your palms not been resting on the stone. A pulse. Not a physical one, but something deeper. A tremor in the silence. A ripple through the stillness. A barely perceptible motion within the air itself. You open your eyes, but nothing visible changes. The desert is still. The stone is still. Even the stars seem frozen, hanging like breathless witnesses above the arch. Yet the tremor remains. A presence. A message. Whisper stirring just beneath the surface of the world. You lean closer. Not with your body, but with your awareness. The whisper begins. It does not come as words. It comes as feeling, shape, as longing, as a soft pressure behind the heart, a gentle blooming sensation beneath the ribs. The gate breathes again. This time you feel it, a slow exhale moving through the arch, carrying with it the memory of countless travelers who once stood where you kneel. Their stories pressed lightly into your chest. Not to be told, but to be shared. A faint warmth spreads from the stone into your palms, up your forearms, into your shoulders. It gathers in your chest like a small flame that does not burn, but illuminates. Emotion rises. Not sorrow, not joy, but something between. A feeling of being recognized, of being seen by something ancient and impossibly gentle. The whisper continues. A soft, wordless syllable that echoes not in the air, but inside you. It feels like a breath meant to say, "We remember," or perhaps, "You are not alone," or perhaps something else entirely. Something the mind cannot translate, but the heart understands instantly. You remain kneeling, the stone beneath your palms growing warmer still, as though the gate is offering you a final pulse of memory, a final whisper left on the threshold of whatever lies beyond. You bow your head, not deliberately. Your body simply moves in quiet reverence as the sensation deepens. You feel the whispers of countless travelers, their hopes, their fears, their final breaths before stepping past the arch. Their presence does not frighten you. It comforts you, like the gentle weight of a hand placed upon your shoulder by someone who means only kindness. You inhale slowly. The whisper fades, but its echo lingers like the afterglow of a dream too soft to hold, but too beautiful to forget. The air around you lightens. The chill lifts. The hum beneath your palms begins to soften. The gate feels quieter now. Not empty, but resting, as though it has given what it intended for this night. You lift your hands from the stone. As soon as your palms leave the surface, the warmth evaporates, replaced by cool, inert stillness. You sit back on your heels. The world brightens slightly. Or perhaps your breath simply returns to the rhythm it held before the whisper. You look up and see the first pale streaks of dawn emerging along the horizon. Soft grey, soft silver, soft rose. The sky seems unsure whether it wishes to wake or remain in the hush of night. You remain kneeling for a long moment, letting your heartbeat settle into its familiar cadence. The whisper feels rooted now, woven into your breath, settled under your ribs, resting where memory becomes something deeper. Understanding is not necessary. Only presence, only witness, only the quiet acceptance that some messages are not meant to be deciphered, only received. You rise slowly, your legs stiff from kneeling, your palms faintly tingling. The gate looms behind you, silent once more. A simple shape carved in stone, unchanged, unmoving. But to you it feels different now. Not a barrier, not a monument. A presence, not awake, yet not asleep, listening in its eternal quiet. You step back, your footprints soft in the sand. The faint breeze brushes your cheek, cool and tender, like a final caress from the whisper itself. And for a moment, you think you hear it again. Not in your chest, but carried faintly on the wind. Go gently, or perhaps let go, or perhaps remember, or perhaps nothing at all. Nothing but the wind touching the edges of your imagination with ancient breath. Dawn brightens. The valley awakens with soft light and long shadows. The gate's spirals glow subtly as the sun climbs, revealing the dust settled in their grooves like the residue of ages. You turn to leave. Each step carries a softness you did not have when you arrived. A stillness that feels like the closing of a ritual. The gate it recedes behind you. Its shadow grows shorter, its presence quieter, but the whisper remains in the quiet center of your chest. A feather-light memory, a wordless offering, a reminder that some truths are meant not to guide or explain, but to touch, to soften, to illuminate something within you that does not speak in words. As you walk back across the valley, the desert exhales around you, sending thin spirals of dust into the growing light. And you think, with gentle certainty, perhaps the whisper was never meant to be understood, only felt, only received, only carried, like breath, like starlight, like memory, into the quiet places of the waking world. The sand that remembers their names. It is said that dawn does not simply arrive, it returns, carrying the breath of all who have walked the night before it. And in certain deserts, when the first light brushes the dunes with its tender, trembling glow, the earth awakens with memories older than any living tongue can speak. Tonight, you find yourself in such a desert, a place where silence is not emptiness, but a vast archive of footprints, breaths, whispers, names. Names that the wind carries and the sand recalls only in the softest moments. Moments like this one, when the threshold between darkness and dawn is barely a line at all. You stand before the ancient stone gate, its spiraled arch rising from the dunes with quiet dignity. The moon has already dipped behind the sleeping horizon, leaving the sky washed in faint hues of rose and dim copper. The gate does not speak. It never does. It only remembers. And tonight, the sand remembers with it. Dawn spills across the dunes slowly, like warm breath moving through an empty hall. The first rays of sunlight slide across the valley floor, touching the sand with soft rose, pale amber, and the faint shimmer of faded copper. You lower your gaze, At first, the sand appears smooth, a soft, unbroken canvas stretched across the waking desert. But then, as the breeze stirs in gentle spirals around your ankles, you notice something extraordinary. Patterns. Delicate. Ephemeral. Barely there. Like the faintest handwriting on a page the earth itself has begun to turn. The patterns form in slow spirals, curves shaped by the morning wind, soft loops left in the sand by currents too gentle to feel on your skin. Within those spirals, faint lines begin to appear. You kneel to see them more clearly. The lines are fragile, so faint that blinking might make them vanish. Lines that resemble names, not names as we know them. Letters and symbols organized by rule, but names written the way memory writes, with curves, with pauses, with the soft suggestion of presence. Some lines curl like a whispered vow, others cross gently like joined hands, others unfurl like petals, and some, the faintest of all, shimmer for just a heartbeat before dissolving back into the sand, as though they were never there at all. You reach out and trace one of the lines with your finger. The sand trembles softly, as though startled by being touched so suddenly. You pull your hand back. The wind moves again. A thin breath across the valley, and the line fades into formless grains. It feels as though the desert remembered something for just a moment, and then let it go, in forgotten corners of the world, where silence is allowed to do its sacred work. Some believe the sand remembers the names of those who pass this way. The travelers who walk toward the gate and step beyond its threshold, never to return. They say the desert holds these memories not with sorrow, but with tenderness. Every dawn, it shapes their names in patterns of wind and light, letting them shimmer briefly before the day fully wakes. Not to mourn them, but to honor them, to acknowledge that they were here, that their footsteps warm the ground, that their voices once mingle with these drifting grains. You rise and take a slow step forward. More patterns appear around your feet. Some swirl into shapes that resemble symbols. Spirals and crescents. Curved lines that could be prayers or directions, or fragments of old languages that fell silent long before writing began. Others feel like emotions made visible. Grief shaped into a long trembling curve. Joy into a gentle upward arc. Names, perhaps, or stories, or the lingering breath of souls who walked with purpose toward the stone gate. The desert does not differentiate between name and feeling, between memory and motion. It remembers everything in the only language it knows, the shifting of its own skin. As the sun rises higher, the light grows warmer, washing the valley in soft gold. The patterns brighten. For a moment, the sand looks like a vast mosaic, an ancient tapestry, woven in a medium too fragile to survive more than breath by breath. You walk through it gently, careful not to disturb the ephemeral names. A breeze stirs the surface with firm delicacy. Not enough to erase everything, but enough to remind you that this moment is temporary. Memory is a visitor here, not a resident. And yet, you can feel something beneath the sand. A pulse, a warmth, a sensation like a quiet song being hummed beneath the earth. The valley holds stories beneath its surface, stories that rise only when dawn places a gentle hand upon the dunes. Whispers tell us that the desert remembers not only footsteps but feelings. The warmth of gratitude, the ache of farewell, the hope that flickers as someone crosses from the known into the unknowable. The sand shapes these feelings into symbols only when the world is soft enough to receive them. At dawn, at the edge of remembering and forgetting, you kneel once more, letting your hand hover above a curling line of shimmering grains. It glows faintly with pale rose gold light. You feel it, not physically, but through a sensation rising within your chest. Recognition. This line, this name, this pattern of the desert is the memory of someone who passed here with purpose, someone who left an imprint the earth deemed worth holding. Even if only for a moment. You stand slowly. The stone gate now gleams beneath the early sun, its spiraled carvings glowing softly as though lit from within. It watches over the valley without judgment, without longing, simply witnessing. Perhaps this was always its role. Not a passage, but a guardian of memory, a sentinel that overlooks the names the sand shapes at dawn, a witness to the fleeting beauty of remembrance. You walk toward the gate. The patterns behind you fade gently, their lines dissolving into the wind like exhaled breath. The desert sighs again, a tender sound. Grains shifting. Light murmuring across curves, the hush of morning entering fully. By the time you reach the gate, the names have vanished entirely. Morning has claimed the valley. Light has erased the patterns. But you carry them now. Their essence rests inside you. Soft, warm, melancholy, beautiful. You press a hand to the arch's cool stone. The spirals carved along its edge suddenly resemble the patterns of the sand. Curves shaped by breath, names shaped by wind. Perhaps the travelers who vanished did not leave the world completely. Perhaps they simply stepped into a place where memory and silence share the same gentle space. You close your eyes. The breeze brushes your cheek. Dust rises softly from the ground. The desert hums in quiet recognition, and in the hush that follows, so thin, so delicate, you feel something like a whisper, not a voice, not a word, a sensation, a warmth, a presence, a remembrance, a single quiet truth. Nothing truly disappears when the earth remembers it tenderly. The gate stands silent. The valley brightens, and you walk away, carrying the soft understanding that some stories are preserved not in stone or ink, but in the shifting of sand at dawn.